I call this meeting to order. I'd like to have approval of the adoption of the agenda for the day. Do I hear a motion?
Oh, might as well have a motion, I'll make it.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're going to do item 4 before item 3 so that we can get James back out weed whacking. And review the list of the public works equipment and determining surplus items. And the reason James is here is if you have any questions as to the equipment, he's here to answer your questions. We have the year's purchase on it, purchase price, and the estimate value.
I tried to divide it up into
I guess I
two items that are available to be sold that would not need replacement, and then those that would need replacement. And then the second sheet is just items, wish list, I guess, items that we would be looking at, which include the excavator, and the public parking trailer, and RTV with snowplow, and the F-150 is undergoing transmission repair at the moment. The bucket truck, of course, we've got bids in on those that went out to bid for new or used. So y'all got a separate spreadsheet showing all the bucket truck items. But I guess for this particular item, we're looking at things that you all would want to sell for surplus. And we can get those ready for the next meeting.
So how we going about this? Are we making a motion and talking about it, or we gonna talk about it and go from there?
What would the motion be?
I
Well,
don't have a clue. I'm asking.
Maybe we need to talk about it first.
I don't know.
no,
That's what, it's a work session.
This is
it's just a work session.
Oh, that's true.
Anyway.
Thank you.
Yeah. Just work.
What?
This is my second.
I have a question, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Said would need replacement. I guess it's for Linda and James. The 2014 leaf vac. Said would need replacement. We're gonna replace a leaf vac that hasn't worked like we thought it would with another leaf vac. What are you gonna replace it with?
Well, you've got to replace it with
Rakes and
something.
shovels and buckets?
I mean, you've got to replace it with something. You can either replace it with another type of leaf vac that's not the all-inclusive unit, the type we used to have before we bought that one. Or you can
Do we have
forego
any?
the vacuum completely and try it with the excavator bucket type. I personally don't know how well that's gonna work, but that's just
Well,
my
that's what
opinion.
my question is, are we gonna have some, before our meeting next week, are we gonna have a recommendation for a replacement for that, or we just gonna table it, or what?
Well, we're just talking about it now, to see kind of which direction you all are thinking.
Well, I don't wanna go the same direction as we went with the original leaf.
Well, we wouldn't replace it with the same type of unit, it's not even very old. I mean, we can continue to try to use it. We think at least that it's been repaired and strengthened, I guess is lack of a better term,
Yeah, but
above where it was. So we think, we may have better success with it if we decide to keep it another year and see what happens, but.
Who's the manufacturer of that leaf vacuum?
Cotton, Leaf Pro.
Titan.
well,
But there's been a continuous
it's just,
breakdown on that leaf
Yes, sir.
all the time. time.
Yes,
You just go out half hour sometimes and you're back into the garage.
Has a representative from Titan come out and looked at your problems and the issues you're having?
no, sir.
Well, isn't the problem that it's picking up more than leaves, sticks, and stuff that shouldn't be picked up?
Yeah, it's
And
gonna,
we don't have
it's
the
gonna
kind of
suck up whatever
terrain
you
like
put up.
you know, that normally.
I'm
would
thinking
be,
it come from
you know,
Indiana, you know, it's a little different terrain.
like on
out
the
there
side
than
of a
what's here.
city street that doesn't pick up. I think it's we just made a mistake in this type of equipment. So all I'm looking for is a recommendation from those that use it. If there's something else that mechanically will do the job and not cause the kind of problems you've had, or let's look for a totally different approach.
Is there a chance your Titan guy could come out and possibly say, well, oh, you've got an ABC, but you need an XYZ?
Mhm.
And all of a sudden put us on a path that we understand that either that one can be made to do it, or you need to go to this type of thing because of the things it's collecting. Maybe a Titan guy could tell us something.
I don't think we've had much luck in getting them to come this way, and they're just so far away, we can't really get it to them.
What was the new cost on it, 40,000, and a rep won't talk to you?
Well, they talk to you on the phone, but
There's no local deal.
No recommendations?
We just made a mistake.
Okay.
I mean, it's the top of the
Am I
line.
Good idea,
Am I
but just
allowed to look
didn't
into it
materialize.
farther, or?
Yeah, I mean, it was the top of the line as far as leaf packs. I mean, it was like gonna be the best thing since sliced bread, but
Yeah.
it just didn't,
It's for-
it doesn't work for our application. We've got too many wet leaves, you know,
Right.
too much other stuff in our ditches that's not.
But would anybody be opposed if I called Titan that we purchased this from and see what kind of research that I could find out?
Please, it's certainly.
I'm asking specifically Bob, or Mayor Bob.
Well, no, I have no objections to you calling and talking to him. We've done this. And
But
I should have, it's a fine machine for the lowlands without sticks and everything. Into a city where you're just picking up leaves, it would work great.
We know.
But up here, we're sucking up those leaves, they're getting jammed up, we have to come back in, take off that big tube, unplug it, and then the construction of the arm was instead of a solid steel arm up there, it was a hollow one. That kept breaking. We've had to weld it. Now we've welded it and put braces across it to hold it. It is not, I'd hate to say, let's keep it and try it again for another year without,
I don't think anybody's proposed that.
yeah, I don't either. What's
Well-
aggravating to me is that it's a $40,000 piece of equipment. It's been going on for years, and here we are throwing something else in our lap that's, been a problem for years, and why weren't they taken care of last year?
yeah.
Well, I definitely think we ought to sell it. Get rid of it.
And tonight, at least, to call the manufacturer and get them to give you a recommendation on something.
Well,
It
James,
seems to me like that's a pretty thing to do. But you've had no luck, you say?
I've talked to them when it break down, or run hot, issues like that, when we had trouble, you know, I call them.
But not the overall, just general performance of it.
Yeah.
Maybe they're taking a trade against something that would actually work.
Yeah, no kidding, that's the first person I would go to if I bought something that didn't work. I would go to that person and say, hey, you sold me this, it's not working.
Have you got a customer that could use the user? You got a source?
There you go.
Well, we can certainly do that. The question, more or less, for discussion today is, do we even want to discuss another leaf back, or do we want to move away from, I mean, in other words, you're saying no.
I'm saying no,
So-
because I haven't got any,
We don't have-
any kind of idea of what to replace it with.
Yeah.
if we have a proposal for that, where we can evaluate,
There is one thing that,
right
We
now.
don't have a recommendation.
Right.
there is a, excavate, what is the other piece of equipment that you looked
The
at?
excavator,
Yeah. And, that, is a, well, I'll have James, you describe it.
That's a $60,000 piece of equipment, I don't even know what it does.
Wait a minute, let James try to tell you.
That's,
well, it can be used for multiple purposes. It takes the place of your backhoe, which is one. It can be used to dig up, when we have busted water lines, we can use it for digging, we can use it for clear ditches. The only thing about using it just to clear ditches is when they blow these yards down, there's so many leaves, it's gonna take a while to load them all up. It'll have the hydraulic thumb on it where you can paint, you know, and everything.
is that one of those things you go down like this and pick
There
it?
you go.
Yeah.
Okay, that's how that's.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there's multiple uses for the excavator. I mean, it ain't just, you know, for leaves. I mean, it can be used year round.
Head on it goes. Like that.
Yeah, they make all kind of things that you can add to where the.
Yeah, you can even get bush hogs, all kinds of attachments for it.
That's
Later
what
on,
I
as you
was-
decide.
If
The
you
one that
remember.
goes down and does that.
See, that's a replacement that you can use, but you can use that year round for different things, besides picking up leaves. And as you said, it's,
And
it
replacement
is,
for the backhoe?
As well, yeah.
Well,
so,
I would ask that we let Paul run with the phone calls. Paul has, in my opinion, a construction background. And is hard charging. And that, you know, if you bought something with the idea that it was going to do something, and the manufacturer or the dealer sold it to you for that reason, and it doesn't work, then they can explain why it doesn't work, or what we need to do to make it work, because there could be operator error involved in this thing too. And that, these leaves just came out, so we got a few months before they're gonna start to fall. So making a phone call in a week or two and getting some more information would be something that I think that we should put it on, table it, and then when Paul gets this information, we put it on the next workshop after he gets the information.
Yeah, I'd also like to ask the guy, the Titan guy, what they're selling for used, so I can see if our $20,000 fair market value, if what we're estimating we could sell it for is a realistic number, or
Yeah.
Yeah, because I couldn't even find one used, so that's totally an estimate.
so that.
And that's,
That's a total guess. Most of the things I could find, you
Okay.
know, used are on eBay, but I could not even find one used.
Well, here again, the people that make it, or and that sell it, can usually give you the best idea, so it's another reason we should be in contact with them.
also I see on here, a John Deere, 1997 John Deere backhoe that needs replacement. We just talked about an excavator or something that would do the job of both.
Right, it doesn't have to be replaced with another, it has to be replaced with something if you get rid of it. That's my point.
What's wrong with it? There's no current repairs needed.
No, I mean, it's currently okay. It's just if you're gonna get an excavator, you would get rid of that and let it do the work of the leaf back and the
I
backhoe.
understand that.
I mean, it's just an
not-
old piece of
that's not
machinery
what
that,
I'm looking at, that's not a proposal I heard.
it's not out for bid, this is just discussion.
this is just for your discussions on these things. These are parts, these are pieces of equipment, that, you know, it's a 1994. Truck. And, you know, even you are getting old, and, this would say neither am I, but these are just items that that we are looking at, that we know we're gonna have to do something about. We're not gonna vote on anything, we're making you aware of all this stuff.
Well, I appreciate it. And this is what the workshop's for, to talk about what the possibilities are, who can do what, how we can assist.
All right, in which direction to go? I mean,
Yeah.
if we think we want an excavator, then we need to put that out to bid, you know? I mean, we've got one price of one type of excavator, but there's other types. I mean, this is just for discussion, to put it out there, what our oldest equipment is, what's coming up, you know, what we need to be looking at replacing, and what can do the job of it in its place, that kind of thing, so.
I have questions on something else here, James. You got the slide-in dump, is that not what you put the chips in? Is that
No, sir.
that box you showed me that day?
That is down at the black box that sat around back behind the shop.
Yeah, I think you
That
said.
was used years ago, they used to chip in that. But now we just use the F-350, it has its own dump.
Okay, but yeah, I thought
The
you
only
had a
thing
yellow box or something that you put the chips and so forth, you're not doing that?
The leaves. The
The
leaf
leaf,
box.
yeah, the big
Oh,
yellow box.
Is that what
That's
this
what
is?
the
This
leaf
is-
is. No, sir.
Okay, all right.
That's just a slide-in dump. They used to use that for garbage and when I first started 10 years ago.
The vibratory roller, I see you're out patching some holes, thank you. What are you gonna use, or why are we getting rid of it? You don't use it for that?
We don't use it enough. We don't use it enough. What we use is a small tamp, vibrating tamp.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
like a 2x4. That way it gets a lot smoother.
I got you. So you just using a packer?
Yes, sir. It's a vibrating
Yeah,
tamp, that's what it is.
okay. Did you take care of the hole out on Ball Mountain Road, North Carolina?
No, No.
Whoever did, thank you. I don't know about people's small cars, but it had to swallow them. Well, in front of Bella's over.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was there yesterday, I think.
No, they fixed it, now it just was on mine, they took care of it.
no, it wasn't us. I called the plane several times.
No, I'm glad.
Gladys called
That's
too.
good.
She told me she called. Got it right in the teeth.
I don't have privilege to the sheet you're looking at, but I've got some chips delivered to my house, and the guys were saying, when they hooked back up the chipper, they were saying they've been having trouble getting the dump back down. Is that on your sheet, that there's a problem with the dump of the F-350 coming back down?
We've got it now where it is coming down.
Okay.
We just have a valve problem.
A lot of it was corrosion, because that's the one we use for the salt and everything.
Isn't that the switch that y'all?
No, that's the 550. Yeah, that's the 550, this is the 350. Some of the salt stuff, even though we treat it and everything before we do the brining and put the tank on, we treat everything, it still got a little bit of salt in there and causes a little corrosion. We do have that straightened out now and everything's working great.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody have any more questions on any of this stuff?
If we sell that John Deere backhoe, I think that might be estimated a little high for the value of that.
That's good, you know, we got to
I agree with you.
bring
Some of
that
this
up.
stuff myself.
It probably is, but we can, before we vote on something like that, we can.
Well, it was kind of just
Yeah.
presenting what that is, to here's some things we can sell, and if we sell them, now here's some equipment we can use to buy them. So if that's the process, we need to get some realistic numbers for fair market value, what we're dealing
Well, I
with.
did find similar backhoes on the equipment trailer that I used to get that night.
Okay,
The leaf back, I did not find them.
that's the yellow John Deere backhoe, right?
Yes. See, you only had one.
But now, we usually sell our stuff on Gov Deals, so you never know. I mean, it's an auction. Sometimes we've done really good on some stuff and, you know, but that's not to say
Are we required to use Gov Deals to get rid of something?
we have to do it by auction. So you're either doing sealed bids or auction, and we usually do better on the auction than we do sealed bids.
Well, I know in construction, we used to send a lot of stuff to like Ritchie Brothers and things like that. You know, they'd take it and hold it until they had a great big auction, and then they would, you know, go through. Okay. So, we are or are not required to use the government auction site?
No, we're not required.
Okay, so we can do anything we want to get rid of it, really.
Well, we can't just sell it. I mean, you can't put it on Equipment Trader and sell it.
Okay.
You can trade it in, correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh.
You can trade it in for the same type of equipment. You can use it as a trade-in, or you can auction it either on GovDeal's site, or you can do, I guess, some other type of similar auction, or you can do it by sealed bid.
I think actually if you gotta do it on the bid program, put it in equipmenttrader.com to advertise the opportunity to bid it. I mean, now you're getting a huge audience.
Well, they do some of that. The GovDeal site, they get it out to some of the,
I
those
got
other type things
Okay.
too.
All right.
Because basically they're making money on it.
Yeah.
Not from our part, but it gets passed on to
Right.
the site.
Buyer premium. Okay.
Well, maybe it's just me, but we're talking about in the workshop to make a decision as to what we do next. Do we approve and say, yeah, let's get rid of this stuff?
If y'all can identify
Or do
which pieces,
Or do some, we say, all right, I see what you're saying here. Who's gonna put together the proposal for how we sell it and what we replace these items with? I don't think that's a job for the council.
well, no, if y'all will identify which things you want to sell, I'll have it on your agenda for next week to declare those items surplus.
All right, that's.
And then- Unless y'all instruct otherwise, we'll do it through GovDeals. I mean, that's where we have the best luck, so.
Okay. That answers my other question, that was, were we voting on next weekend, so
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out, so.
maybe, maybe not. Okay.
But we may not be ready to do this whole list, you know, we may just want to do the things that we know we're not gonna have to replace or something, you know.
Well, the bucket truck, we have,
The bucket truck we have as an agenda.
yeah, that's on the agenda, so we,
We got bids.
that's,
How many bids have we got for it?
I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bids plus one used.
so on these, would need replacement. Gentlemen, would you,
I would
Other
recommend
than-
we not do anything on those just yet, let's, just the top section.
Does anybody have an objection to putting these, all of these that you've listed up for sale?
Which section are you looking at?
the top section?
Yeah. Would you?
Which it says would not need replacement?
Yeah.
These are just articles that we just sitting there.
Okay, it's things we can sell, but
Yeah.
we don't have to replace it.
Right.
Yeah, right. I don't know that, I'm with Paul, I'm not sure that the estimated values, I mean, in other words, I don't want us expecting to get a total aggregate of what's here.
Well, we're not gonna vote on the, or decide to go on, and these numbers out here on the right are made in stone. What we're going to decide would be this replacement, that we didn't, or would not need replacement for. These are just surplus pieces of equipment, just sitting around, and that's all they're doing, is just sitting there, and we just want to clean up the yard, and what we can get is, money in our pocket.
I mean, the John Deere mower, we still use, but, you know, we may want to sell it while we can still get something out of it now that we've got the other mower. And then the roller is something we use occasionally, the golf course borrows it occasionally. I mean, we've used it on the walking path, that kind of thing, but it doesn't get used really for doing pavement, because those big jobs we don't usually do those. which is why we bought it, is for bigger patches, you know.
Is that on the John Deere mower you're talking about? Right now?
Well, I just talked about three different
He's
things.
talking about the roller.
The roller.
The roller talking about it then. To me, I would think we'd have to have a minimum number we'd take, because, I mean, if you got something like the roller, you may not use it all the time, but, you know, hey, if you're gonna get $1,000 for it, keep it available.
And that's
You know,
something
I
else we
mean,
can do, is set minimums.
You know, if you're
within
gonna
our-
get a good number for it, great, but that's my only issue over here, and I guess that's where it goes back to this estimated fair market value. We need a bottom dollar where we can say, in my opinion, we need a bottom dollar that says, all right, you know, X number of dollars, fine, get rid of it, other than that, hey, we'll keep it available for use. I mean, same thing like the John Deere mower. You know, we just went around on this other mower and talking about backup mowers, and here we've got one that may be a good backup mower. I mean, that's the one you're cutting with now, is it not?
We have been.
What's
He
what?
said there's a problem with the deck, and
The
they
deck is
replaced
rusty, I
it.
had it repaired this year. They had to go in and do some welding, cut out some pieces and patch it, for it's rusty, you know.
Yeah.
We called about a new deck, and it was $5,000 for a new deck. That's why we ended up patching. The mower's not worth putting $5,000 into.
No, it's not. Actually, it came off my golf course originally, I know very well. And I know that issue. Okay.
Well,
Well,
Have they started?
Just looking
okay.
I'm 5 minutes early.
why don't we go down through,
Started.
for my, now we go down through this list, and would not need replacement, one item by one, and James, talk to me about it, because I'm confused here. Military water tank trailer,
Yes, sir.
never used?
No, sir,
All
never
right,
used.
we don't need it, right? It's not a backup for anything? It's not something that,
No.
okay, so you can put that, keep that on the list. Slide in dump.
No, sir, we never used it.
Well, here, if I understand this, Linda was saying that is there a minimum that we're gonna take? I think addressing what Mr. Dirklo was saying.
All right, if we're gonna go through each item, we don't, if you want a minimum bid as the starting bid, then,
To-
yeah.
If it's surplus and it's not being used, why are we stuck with a minimum bid that we have to have for something that's just occupying space and rotting?
You can't put a minimum on this first two, you never get rid of it.
And
No, I agree
who
with that.
decides that minimum bid? That's like if we're gonna have a yard sale, and I expect that I'm gonna get $15 for this pen, and that's my minimum bid, and it's not worth that. So you take whatever you can to get rid of it. So anyway, that's my thought on that. So we've got the slide and dump in the military water, or the water tank trailer. Never gonna be used under any set of circumstances.
Don't have an issue with it.
Jeep Cherokee,
My understanding when Paul and I met with you and reviewed the equipment early in January, this was, if your statement was this is one of the favorite vehicles and all it needed was a $90 seal and it was a good vehicle to use.
The Jeep.
Yeah,
The Jeep was a good vehicle at one time. It's got some issues. Now it's a rear main seal. Duval's is looking at $900 to fix it. The Jeep's not worth it. I mean, it's not worth putting that kind of money back into that old Jeep.
okay, 'cause that's kind of, all right, it's changed since January then. Okay,
so based on what I'm hearing from James today, is that Jeep is, you're not gonna put money into it, so you can't use it as it sits.
I mean, that's up to y'all. If y'all want to put
Well,
the money in it.
No, but if we don't put money into it, you can't use it as it currently sits.
No. It leaks oil. Everywhere you go, it makes a mess. And
So then it's a decision on whether or not to put that money into it so that it can be used, or, you said 900?
yes, sir. That was the bid I got from Duval's, $900.
For
You have to pull the motor out to get to the rear main seal.
Okay, so it's a question of whether or not are you throwing good money after bad, or is $900 a pretty good investment to have another vehicle? That's my thought. Does anybody else have a different thought on that?
Sounds like a waste of money. To do anything to it.
Why?
Because how old is it?
I think it's in
97.
97.
There's other problems with it too.
They are the starter, and a lot of it come from where the oil's leaking, it's got into the starter, you're going to have to replace the starter.
The roof is rusted.
And the roof is
The
rusty,
seat's
it was rusty
broken.
when the police had it.
And the, was it the
Seat
heater air or
broken,
something?
Yeah, you
Well,
don't have
that's
to switch on the
kind of
inside.
point,
That turns,
I mean, I
you
get
know,
about
from low to high on
$1,200
your
now,
heat and air.
$1,200.
All that's,
Yeah.
it's bad. I mean, just several things, you know.
All right, so it's not $900, it's gonna be a lot more than that.
Well, I didn't get bids on any of the rest of it.
Right.
It's 900 for the mechanical issue, the rest of it is kind of the,
All right, so it's a question, is it worth it to spend any money, or is it not worth it?
And what is it used for when it works?
it was the code enforcement
Oh, that was it.
officers, but
Okay.
we've replaced it.
So that's really not a first line item, it's not a first.
So if we take that stance, that, it's not worth going after, then we add that to the list of the other two things. And then we move to 1990, whatever the heck this is, Ford tractor. Again, is it used in any way, shape, or form?
We have, and we used it last year, but I've got two other tractors, and that one sits more than anything.
So it's sitting,
It's worn.
deteriorating just from lack of use. And if you had to put money into it, you're not gonna, it's not your
It's gonna
go-to
sit there and
machine.
put the money.
Okay, so again, is that something that we would agree on, that's surplus?
And that is the oldest tractor the city owns. It's a Ford.
And we've already discussed the vibratory roller, the mower, John Deere mower, and the box trailer. So I guess that it's a pretty all-inclusive list of things that we probably should be jettisoning from the city.
Well, except for that John Deere mower, I've seen it used quite a few times over the last couple of months. Is that correct, James?
Yes.
So,
Yes, we
to
can
me,
do that.
why are you selling something you're currently using it?
It's really just, do you want to sell it while you can get anything out of it before the deck goes completely?
I thought you just had the deck repaired, that's what James said.
Yeah, it's repaired, but not replaced. No,
I
I mean, we
You're
can,
not gonna get $2,000.
I'm just saying, it's available to be sold, we don't have to sell it,
But
I'm asking.
if you look at, it, you just replaced the deck, and you have on here that you're gonna sell it for $2,000, who's gonna pay $2,000
But we
for
just
that?
paid
James said it
$2,500
needs
for
a
it
five,
2 years ago.
James says it needs a $5,000 deck, but we're gonna try to sell it for $2,000. I'm just saying, we've been using it, why not keep it for a backup?
We can,
Well, I
that's
can
what y'all are
buy-
here for.
I'm buying a Cherokee on here right now for $1,200, so let's see what the 1445.
It's just here for your discussion. These are
Well, it's
things
your-
that
it's
we
your
have
own- it's your own-
available to sell, it doesn't mean you
Yeah.
have to sell them.
Chipwood across the street had a very, very similar Jeep Cherokee. Tried for 3 years, finally dumped it for less than $800. It started, it ran, it had a leak in the roof, but nothing else was wrong with it.
Yeah.
And he was thrilled to say goodbye to it. for
Well,
less
that
than
was
$800.
kind of my point. We got $3,000 on here,
Yeah.
and so forth. Opening bid, John Deere, 2011, 1445, $100. I'd rather have it as a backup.
I'm pretty sure, the police aren't here, but I'm pretty sure they said they used that Jeep during the last snow
They can.
in December. They used it and it was real handy, helped them get around. They couldn't use the 4 brand new Foresters they had, but they could use this backup, so.
There
They
was
can.
something about that. I
Yeah.
forgot about that.
Yeah,
Because the,
They loved it, it goes great and stuff.
It's 12.
Jesus, they loved it. I think we need to get it out of here quickly.
I mean, if y'all are okay with it sitting 99.9% of the year and just having it for when it snows, then we'll keep it and fix it. I'm good with it.
All right.
And the taxes aren't much on it.
I mean, no, we don't have any taxes on
We don't have any taxes.
Not taxes, you know, the tag.
it. We don't pay for that either.
And my apologies, everybody. I really had it in my head when I woke up. It was 9:30 and I know it was not. My apologies. I couldn't have been
You made it.
I rolled over with the same feeling, really.
here. Nice to see you.
All right, let's get back to this
Yeah, let's.
replacement list here. We not need replacement to get rid of some of this equipment that's just sitting around. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 8 items, and we want to go with those 8 items, and then we can have a reevaluation of what we think we can get out of it by the next meeting. And at the same time, Paul can look at the call and get information on the leaf act.
Mhm.
Are we in agreement with that?
And that is what now? We're
We're
gonna
just
get
gonna-
more information on the actual, we're gonna get more realistic values.
Step.
Okay.
This, all I'm saying is
I'm also getting more realistic values.
the
So.
needed replacement
Give a proposal.
to go with the list of
Yeah.
needed replacement. And then, in the meantime, we'd get more of a realistic value,
It's
if you think
an
it is.
And I think that the Jeep Cherokee, the Ford tractor, and the roller, and the John Deere mower need some type of amount, because they're worth more to us being available than we may get. All right.
Okay.
So who's gonna do that?
And how are you gonna estimate what you're gonna get on an auction?
Go see what you can buy for.
You looked at it, goes up on your, probably on your internet, can't you?
That's what I use. If
Yep.
Well, I mean,
I'm
that's
buying
what I
something, I go see
pulled
what I
for
can buy
all-
for, or if
all
I'm
of
selling
these.
something, go see what I can buy one for, because that's who my competition is.
Somebody else wants
It's just like real estate.
Are those absolute auctions, once you put it up, you must sell it for the highest bidder?
Council always has final approval, but, I mean, you can get tagged pretty hard by bidders if you don't go through with your sale. The best thing to do is set your bottom line dollar and then just let it go to the highest
I mean,
bidder.
I've just seen things go for pennies because nobody was interested in it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but you can set your minimum bid,
Okay.
your starting bid at whatever your minimum is, or you can also set it to where your starting bid is lower, but you still have a threshold that they have to meet.
Reserve.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's just a matter of setting those amounts.
All right, let's go on.
So what are we gonna do? We spend an hour and.
We're not gonna talk about it anymore.
Yeah.
So what's the
Decide.
decision?
Just wait on what happens next.
All right. Moving right along.
All right, let's go to item 3,
What is 3?
surplus.
Oh.
All right,
James,
so are we
you can
done with
leave
this?
now. Get back to work.
All right, thank y'all.
Thank you, James.
Thank you all.
Okay. Now, surplus lots to sell, determine the method of sale.
I like the idea of hiring a licensed real estate agent to sell it for us.
What in the past, Linda, what did, they just put out the city put out lots for sale and people come in and bid on them, or did you
We've done
have
it
a?
2 ways. We've done one auction and we've done one civil bid since I've been here. That's only 2 times we've sold property. But that's new law with the realtor, that's brand new, so we didn't have that option. And they still have to go through the similar process from the way I read it, but it's just, they handle it and stuff.
certainly like to see people who live next door to some of these lots have an opportunity to pick them up. That was one of my concerns about a one lump sum of saying, hey, one person has to buy everything. And I understand not wanting to sell just the good lots and be stuck with the other ones still. But at the same time, I hate to see our friends and neighbors sitting here and say, hey, I'd love to have this lot next door to me, but, unless I buy 14 of them, I can't buy it.
And we know two that are wanted by, two different lots that are wanted by one person.
Right, but that's the only one that's made themselves.
Well, that's what I mean, but we know of two that exist like that
Yeah,
want
but I
one
mean,
particular lot.
I guess the point is, in other words, if we made this, if we made them aware that, hey, these lots are there, then the neighbors go, oh, I hadn't thought about that, but maybe I'll take it. But anyway, I'd love to see it
I
put
think
on
that,
something like auction.com.
What you're saying is if they wanted it, they would have been quiet about it long before that we was going to do this.
Most people don't
Not
know.
necessarily.
Well, they don't know, then all they gotta do is ask, get down to the city and they can ask, who owns the lot next door to me?
I did do
Take
a
a
request
deal
at
that way.
auction.com.
I don't think we have to worry about
They
the
did.
people.
That's last one.
Okay.
Because I was wondering,
But if you're gonna
I
do.
guess I'm more of a salesman than that, but if somebody came to me and asked me if I wanted to buy the lot directly to my south, because it was about to go up for an auction or something, I'd all of a sudden get interested if I was ever to be interested.
That's my
Did you
point.
jump on it? Wouldn't I?
Yes.
I would.
And because I haven't called on it before, I may have thought it was not even an opportunity. I think as a salesman that I am, I would be checking with those neighbors on both sides and say, listen, this is about to happen, do you want it?
but we can't
But can
sell
see.
it. We can't sell it straight out. It
Okay.
has to be auctioned. No, it cannot be
Well, then
auctioned
they need
through
to
a
know
realtor.
And then you know it's up to
That's okay.
Sir, excuse me, but would you let us finish the negotiations
I'm sorry.
before you?
I'm sorry, I'm just a motor.
Yeah, I know, it's okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to auction.com. It seems like a pretty efficient website. I've done business with them before.
Well, this thing that you just said that, and I read briefly this morning this about the new House bill that allows cities to use realtors to sell property. Now, Linda, if I understood you correct, you said we can't just sell a piece of property outright. So if we can't sell it outright, how is a realtor gonna sell it?
No.
In other words, if you listed it with my company or another company up here, and I can't sell it, I'm not doing anything, so I mean, you'd have to put a price, or, you see what I'm saying, unless we're going to run an auction.
Well, we'll ask the attorney, but the way I understood it, it's still an auction type thing. It's just they're having to do, the realtor does all the footwork.
Well, that's actually something I'm adding to my website now, with auctions for real estate, but, okay, I got you.
I was hoping it was more like what we thought,
The
we could just
auction.com.
list it and, but it's not. It's kind of the same process. You're just allowed to retain a realtor to do it.
How many lots are we talking about here?
Well, that's the other thing. Now, this is everything we own. This is not everything we
Yeah.
can get rid of, for sure. Most of the ones that we
There's-
knew we wanted to get rid
If
of, we've
I
already.
correctly, it's 15 lots that we want to sell. Right?
And I totaled it up last night, it was 2,700.
Well,
The cost, or not
I'm
the cost,
talking
but
about the
what,
number of lots is 15.
I know. but
This
I
is
mean the
everything we
total of
own.
what the
Yeah,
current
but
value
if you take
was
out what we
selling.
want to keep, and then our buildings and all, they're
There came up with what?
15 lots.
No, I can't.
2,500 was the value, the current value of all the lots.
$2,700.
No,
No, 2,000.
2,007, no,
207,000.
Thank you. 500.
Oh, all right, a couple more zeros. It's all about the zeros.
I know, but the total,
Okay,
the total.
I got you.
207, yes.
I don't come up with nearly that many lots.
I don't believe that with it. Good, but that's what.
Did you take the assessed value, is that what you added?
Current
Yeah,
value.
the current assessed value.
Current,
Like on this one right here, it's 12,500.
no,
And I think you'll find if you really search through the website, they almost put $12,000 as a minimum on just about every lot.
Just about all.
Yeah.
So, and, you know, so I don't know about that, but,
Yeah, there's not that many lots, I don't know
No.
if you included in that.
I mean, I've got some for $9,000 and the phone's really not ringing, so.
I took all of it says surplus or across from the front entrance or whatever, tax deeds.
Okay, well, the
declared
two lots,
surplus.
all right, let's talk about the two lots across from the front entrance, because we bought those. We purchased
Unfortunately.
those for $40,000
What was the intent at the time of purchase?
for public safety building.
those are encroaching on three residential.
I don't know.
So fire and,
And what does it cost?
Fire,
us to-
police, emergency, an ambulance or something?
No, that's not really what we want in our front door.
That's not what I want.
I mean, what does it cost us to hold a lot like that? Anything? I mean, we have no property taxes on it.
just whatever property taxes we're not getting from somebody else over
Okay, that's what I'm saying, so we actually, we only have,
here. We don't pay anything on it.
and the property taxes would be, what, $150, give or take, isn't that about right on the lot around here?
May I make a comment about that?
Oh, wait.
I think if you're talking about those
Excuse me,
lots,
excuse
you're
me,
talking about
excuse
it
me.
encroaching on where I live. And those people were never, I know where those lots are.
Okay. I want to hear from you, but give us just.
That's fine, I'll hold my comment.
Okay, anyway, my reason being is we got a lot of money as a city invested in it. I don't know what the future of the city holds, so, I mean, there's no way unless the city's gonna take a huge loss on those lots.
Can we address that lot? I'm trying to think, it was part of some plan, like a land use plan or something, those lots were bought, we just need to, in the land use plans that we're working on, I hadn't gotten an update on yesterday's meeting, but you could redesignate that area as a, you know, how you wanted it, if there's concerns, in other words, with neighbors being, whatever, then we need to hear those, so it can be addressed in the land use plan.
It's 40,000, it's 20,000 per lot.
Well,
Well,
they
actually,
donated
one
one.
lot was purchased and one
One
was
was
donated,
given.
so, but
So
yes,
you-
and I understand.
You're down to 20 on that.
So we've got the first one, most of these we've already declared surplus that we wanted to surplus, the first one. And then there's Southwoods 0939 and 0940. Those have already been surplus, not sold yet, but they've already been declared surplus. And then the Ridgepole 4, 235 and 224 have already been declared surplus, just not sold.
Hold on, you're going faster. Are we down to number what?
235.
Down to here. Declared
Oh,
surplus.
230, okay, I got you, 230, yeah, I got you, okay.
So we have not declared surplus the wild bird lots. I think, I told you all there's an issue with the utilities running through those. However, I did talk to somebody yesterday that has one of the ones that we don't own under contract right now.
Really?
So he is talking to everybody about where the utilities are and getting them moved. So he would now be interested in those lots. But if they get moved, we may not want to sell them if we have some kind of purpose for
Is that the
them.
corner lot?
Well, we own a whole, which one does he have?
Yeah, which one's this guy wanting to buy or in the process or under contract?
Well, we own almost all of them, so he's probably,
I was thinking it
Two
was
or
only
eight.
the very tip down here that was owned by Ugandan or whatever.
I've got it written down
Where's
on
this
this.
is Robert?
That was wild. That's the city zoning map, okay, so where she's talking about, this is the lot I know that I think Harris's daughter owns. I think the city owns all of this.
This whole strip.
But
Well,
there
we
may
don't-
be
we
one
don't
missing.
have
Let
eight.
me just go pull the tax.
Well, it looks like lots 3
Well, she's
through
got that in here.
6 or 7, and then 8 is missing, is lot 9. And I don't know what the track A/B or whatever that
That's
Well,
that
it's
weird
a
one.
full tax rate.
So it may be number 8.
second lot in is as well.
That's Merrill, isn't it?
That's his daughter, yes. Then you got the city owns the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, the seventh. And then you back to that, and then there's this, and then the city owns the island.
Looks like we own lot 7 and
All right.
9, what about 8
Well-
and 6?
No, this one, these two lots right here are not owned by the city.
What's that? What's the tract AB?
It's probably the island area.
Well, the island still shows as a single tract. I don't know what, I see your AB there, but see, you got, there's the first one, right there. This one is city, that one's city. So I don't know where the A and B is, then you.
That's what they call it, if you pull up that track, it's track
Oh.
80
There are some where you're talking about on the
on the
tax ID number, they do some of those that are.
Well, no, I mean, the legal description on the tax thing says track 80. It's 058C 204A, which says track 80.
All right, so then you get across from Jesse Durham's house, and then that's owned by Rannick LLC, I don't know who that is. Sky Valley Investors owns the property there, that's Merrill. Okay.
The bottom line I see is that we've got some surplus lots, we need to sell them to get some tax, back on the tax roll, whatever we can. And we need to have a proposal of how to do that. Who's the best to do that?
Well, we need,
Chip, can you make a recommendation or work with?
I think if we could, yes, I'd be glad to, I think we, she said she's attempted to contact a company called auction.com. Maybe I need to make contact with them and see.
Whatever.
See if we can't do that, put them out there and then we advertise them.
We need to have something to vote
Well, what I need to know from you all, the ones that are not declared surplus, are there any of these Waldberg ones that you want to declare surplus, or do you want to hang on to those and see what happens?
on, or reason.
We don't-
And what do you want to do with the ones across from the entrance? Because we don't have those ones.
Well, on the Wildberg ones, I think we need to wait and see what happens, if they're gonna be moving utilities up there, because that potential. Somebody suggested before to have the utilities companies actually show their easements to go through that piece of property. So maybe maybe that's what he's actually doing. Who knows, but if there's gonna be a resolution up there, those are some pretty great lots, I think.
Well, I'm having a hard time figuring out what he's buying up there, you know.
Yeah.
Dr. Sharpton owns that other opposite corner on Alex Mountain, Wildbird, and then Ugandan owns 2 lots on the opposite corner. And Janet Koo, she's not selling hers next door to her house, I'm sure.
It'd be worth going up there and looking at it.
Well, that's why I was saying,
He
somebody
must be
that knows
doing
in real
it.
estate, knows real estate, maybe work and put together a proposal that we could consider.
Looks like those
I
2
don't-
lots across from the entrance are still zoned single-family residential. Is that true as far as?
They are, I pulled the zoning map a minute ago, because I was thinking they were commercial, but they're not.
No, we have not rezoned.
Here, you look at the same map,
Uh,
yes, I am, yeah, because
Those 2 lots, the gentleman that's interested in, did this happen in the last week?
Which one? Pardon?
You're talking about somebody is interested in a couple of lots up there?
No, somebody's got a lot in the area of ones that we do
Oh,
under contract, and he's dealing with utility people. He's doing his due diligence right now.
but
So,
you don't know what lot it is.
I think I have it written down, I know I have his name and number, but I don't know.
Well, let's figure that out, and I'm with Paul, let's see what the utility issue is, because there's utilities going on up there, because, I mean, it does, obviously, I'm assuming they're feeding those towers through there as well, so we've got communication, we've got a lot of stuff up through that road that's on the right-hand side.
And that's how we ended
The
up with
unpaved
them,
road.
because nobody wanted to pay to have that stuff moved. And they just weren't, it's not necessarily an easement, Paul, it was, the road wasn't put in where it was platted.
Yeah, I understand.
You've been up there and seen where
Mhm.
you got the paved road to the right and the dirt road to the left.
Mhm.
So that's where the AV came into play, because then they had to connect basically the lots to the, I don't know, it's messed up, for sure.
Yes.
One person needs to own all that, or it never makes sense.
What's your
I don't know.
idea on the two lots at the entrance that we paid $40,000 for, both of them, actually $20,000 apiece. We paid 40, one was given to us, and so I think we should, we definitely should have a minimum on those lots.
I say, we
And
just sit
it's
there.
to get them back in the tax record, get some taxes out of it, because they are better lots in some of these. So I would recommend that we put them back on.
I'm gonna say this,
Sale.
and maybe I'm way out of line, I'm not a real estate person, but they're not doing us any good. They're sitting over there, whether we overpaid for them or paid for them, and that plan went away, they're doing us no good. I'd practically give them away if we could get them back on the tax rolls. Now, is that
Well,
bad
that's-
thinking or not?
Yeah, that's basically what I said when we to group them all in one big bundle and put it out for a bid. And no matter what the bid is, we're gonna get everything back on the tax record.
And that's one approach. Do we have an alternate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if you force somebody into a bulk buy, they'll buy it in bulk and give you back what they don't want.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true too, I thought about that.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
that piece of the property across from that front entrance, but before we sell it, it probably should be incorporated as part of the land use plan.
I think we need, yeah, I think we need to hold on to it until,
It's a real visible piece of property right there in that curve, the way your line of sight is
And back-
coming in there.
yeah, back to my point, we're gonna gain $200 a year, let's say, per lot in taxes. So, I mean, in other words, for that kind of money, in my opinion, I'd rather sit tight and see what happens with
On
the
this,
future
yeah.
land use plan on those two lots.
Well, I don't disagree with that either. All I'm saying is if we don't have a vision, we're not gonna go it. We need to make some.
I agree with that. If there's, these other ones, that there's no potential of anything happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it.
The other
Linda's
thing
idea of
I
auction.com.
disagree with you on, if I owned those lots, I wouldn't want to build on that corner. The way the traffic goes around there
What,
and
Then
everything.
why would you buy?
Yeah.
right, yeah, no, I agree with you. I wouldn't want to build on that corner either,
So,
until we get the one. If you look at the zoning map across the road and all inside the front entrance, before it was redone, it's actually an old map. There's government and municipality that's not quite correct, but there's some police department and fire department, notes on here. And, you know, I just think it needs to be looked at
At
comprehensively.
one time, they're
before
talking
we-
about putting the police department.
Maybe, it needs to be looked at
Well,
comprehensively.
that's what I
before we-
remember.
Well, yeah, well, that's what Linda was just telling us. Yeah.
Okay.
all right, well, let's get on with this here. What are we gonna do with it though?
You know, we're talking for 25 minutes and there's no discussion as to what we're gonna do. We're just throwing things in the air. My thought would be is we've got some property that's been declared surplus. maybe we're taking on too much right now, and we ought to just start with a smaller piece, the declared surplus, and then decide how we're going to try and get rid of that, whether it's an auction,
Yeah, I agree
whether
with
it's
that
real
there.
estate, or we give it away, we put a post.
If we have some that have already been declared surplus, why don't we explore the auction.com and do kind of a trial run with these lots and see what's out there? And while we're going through that process, we can figure out these other, see what happens with the
Put those
utilities up
other
here.
things on the
And
back
see how
burner.
the land use plan.
Yeah, we don't have to do it all.
That's true.
Absolutely, that's really done.
Okay.
So that's it, 6 pieces, 6 lots that you're talking about.
You gonna sell the post office?
Sure.
All right, let's see, what are we talking
You're
about?
talking about surplus, you're.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, where?
BGO 116.
Oh, yeah, okay, excuse me, some reason I had that on the way. Yeah, I got you. All right, let's see what we can do with those.
And then we were talking at one point about lumping them together or not lumping them together. There's pros and cons
Yeah, I
for
did
lumping
see.
together or keeping them separate. But if we're gonna try, let's just say the real estate for the sake of argument, why don't we just do it individually?
Mm-hmm.
And then see what happens. We're gonna take a small step to see whether there's any interest at all in anything. And you can always change it later on and say that, well, we're gonna lump it together even if we get 2 pieces back.
Yeah, even if something doesn't sell, you can always auction it again as a group.
All right.
But that gives the people the option that I wanted to do, say, buy a lot next door.
Exactly. Right.
Okay.
All right, let's move on. Who wants
Bob, thank you. On the subject of the lots right at the front entrance of Sky Valley, I think that's a very sensitive location because we all drive by it every day. It's hard for me to think of any kind of use, including a residential property, that would make Sky Valley better. When you drive out that front entrance in the fall, those are the most beautiful colors in the mountains growing on those 2 lots. And for the 4 weeks that those are in color, every day when I drive out of Sky Valley, I am reminded that you cannot go anywhere in the mountains from Smoky Mountain Park to Asheville and find a more beautiful spot than Sky Valley. And to me, having those bright fall leaves for the 4 weeks that we have them is worth way the heck more than $200 a year to the people in Sky Valley. And so I'm just sharing my view of that particular property. If I were on the council, I would vote no, no, no. I don't care what we paid for it. We could keep those darn things, keep them forever. There's 1,000 other things we can do before we touch those properties.
I was hushed, but you recognized him.
I didn't.
Yeah.
Now, I would like to speak,
Yes,
please.
Yeah.
Okay, I live up above those lots. They're still zoned residential. If you put anything commercial there, you're backing right up to some very, very nice homes. And I would suggest you leave it alone. It's a high-speed curve. When I start this morning, when I pulled out of my street, I stopped, I looked both ways, and I'll tell you right now, as I swung the left-hand curve, somebody came flying around that corner. The last thing you want to put there is somebody pulling out. I support what you're saying, is leave it alone. You don't want to put commercial property backing up to people's homes. And that's what you'd be doing. Because there are already residences there, and they're very nice homes. I think the people would have major objections. If you decide you want to put those lots up for sale, then I think you need to notify the people. They may want to pick those up just as part of their backyard. I don't know that for a fact. but please don't hush me when you recognize the gentleman.
No, wait a minute, I have to because you.
But you recognized him. That's what happened. And it happened last time as well, because I heard the woman. I don't mean to pick a fight with anybody, but let's be fair. Excuse me. Thank you for your support.
Okay, let's move on here. And Tommy, it's good to see you and congratulations on your promotion.
Yes, congratulations.
Sure. What did you
What
get?
did you do? Oh,
You had a
yeah.
lot of rewards.
Oh, I missed that.
Best coverage local
Did you win the
Wow, fantastic.
in the state.
That was the whole paper, they're not just me, so.
Yeah.
Well, we're
Well,
gonna
we'll
give you.
give you a break.
Who's doing the writing?
Thank you, I appreciate you all.
All right, item 6.
Five.
Skipping 5.
We don't skip by.
Skip that. You want me?
Number 5, not 6. You're number 5. You're on number 5.
Oh, yes, I should say. Cool.
We still love you.
All right.
I'll start it off.
Okay.
Who, I don't know who requested this bid.
And what is it?
Who asked for this?
Are we on number 5?
Yes.
It's been mentioned a couple of times that our ordinances have not been codified, like a lot of municipalities where you can,
I had mentioned it.
Well,
and
that's the one.
you're not the only one, I mean, I know.
I'm just gonna say this, though, first, because we spent a lot of time on stuff so far. In fact, it's over an hour. We have a budget that is pressing us this year very badly. Things we need to do, must do. We have equipment deficiencies, old equipment that need to be replaced. We got flooding issues that need to be addressed. It's not every 100 years, it's about every 8 or 10 that place gets flooded. We got a dam that I'm worried about. And we don't have the money for this right now. And that's my opinion. No, it's not ours.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not our dam, but there's a dam that could flood the rest of us. It's not ours, but we have worries that, flooding, first of all, I was really trying to say. And in my opinion, this is something, we don't have any surplus funds to consider at this point in time. And rather than spending a lot of time on it, I think it just ought to be tabled forever, or tabled forever, until we have funds that we can address something that's not in need, that may be a nicety.
Yeah, it's just not, to make it easier to find code.
Yes, it does. I mean,
That's what I'm saying, but that's its main.
over a certain size city, you have to do it, you don't have a choice. We are not large
We're
enough
not
to
big.
require that.
Gotcha.
So that's why we keep our ordinances individually on the website. But most cities are codified and have it, where you can look it up. It's like one book and everything. All your laws are in, that one book. So it's been mentioned a couple of times, why haven't we? So for this reason, why we have it, because it's not required and it costs $10,000. So, but it's,
Yeah, it's 22
It'd
pages.
be a nice to have, but we just don't have the money to consider it now, in my opinion.
Did it come up during the code of ethics when we were going over that?
Yeah.
It tied into that. didn't
I
it?
had raised it. I mean, the way you have it now is perfectly legal and it's fine for our uses. Codifying it would make it a lot easier to look through the ordinances and find exactly what you want to without having to cross-reference other ordinances from 10 years ago. At this price, and especially this timeline that they have, 12 to 15 months, that's a long time. So yeah, I mean, you don't have to do this. In fact, you don't have to use this company, although they're the ones that typically do it.
Let's move on.
So you can do it.
That's
Well, we have it, if y'all ever wanna come back to it.
Oh, thank
just
you.
let us know.
Yeah.
Thank you for looking into it.
Improve undeveloped road between Saddleback and Tahoe.
Is there a plan on that? Do you put that?
Yes, it's in your packet.
Is it?
Yes.
You should have.
I find all this other pages. Hiya.
So this is we have water lines going down this road. It was improved when we connected both systems, when we did our water system improvements. It was never made into a road really to be traveled on. However, some people were traveling on it and getting stuck. And so it was blocked off. The mayor has requested that we reopen it, but my suggestion would be if we reopen it, we need to improve it to roadworthy, at least gravel road.
And is it
not-
one lane or 2 lanes?
Just one.
No lane right
No,
now.
no.
That's me.
Well, it's
Then
just-
you were going-
To get back to the Saddleback Circle used to go right down and end up on Tahoe. And that was the end road.
Mhm.
Then when they redid it, they brought the road around and connected it. So Saddleback Circle's got is a circle now. This, people drove up and down this road. The people in the timeshare right in front of me, they used to drive down to go to the waterfall and come back up. It was just a lane of tire tracks down there. Originally used to be, and it was growing up in grass, but it still was a roadway. The police used it probably once or twice for an emergency when they're on this other upper part and they want to get it down. It could be also used as an emergency road for a fire truck that wanted to get down to pump water. When the previous mayor had the big run of people here, they used this down, they used this piece of road. So we had the city come in and with a grader, and they took all the sod off, put down some just plain dirt so that the people could run down and back and forth. And then they had a little bit of water running down that road and it made little ruts. Next thing, he had a chain put across it. I asked him why he did that. He says because he was tired of the big trucks going up and down that road. And I said, I've been here over 20 years and I haven't seen a big truck go up and down that road once. But I had James, I asked James to take the chains down. And he come in and dumped some big stones to stop the flow of water. It is unpassable right now with the type of stone that they have. But if it could be brought back, and there are people, very few, but a few of the timeshare people still come over that way and drive down to the waterfall and come back that way. And it still could be used for that. I'm not saying that we put asphalt on it. I'm just saying that if to open it back up and just put a gravel base down there. And to stop the water running, or they could just ditch down the side, on each side, and flow the water that way, rather than just let it go dry. So I would like to have it reopened, not just to have it for the two purposes, mainly, or three. For those in the township that do use it,
Are they walking or driving?
drive. And there's walkers go up and down. And also for emergency, if the police happen to be over there and they have to get, or if you never know when a fire truck, we need water, and they're in this area, that's a short way to go.
Okay.
What,
Yes.
what, has anybody figured, what do you mean by improve? How much that gonna cost? What kind of improvements you talking about? And I don't think we need to do something to, for timeshare people, to make it a little shorter for them to get down there. We're gonna do for what we're gonna do for our citizens' safety and services, and that's what we're here for.
The improved undeveloped road, all it is to remove the big stone that's there and put down the different type of gravel and put ditches down on either side to take the runoff of the water so it doesn't tear it up. And that's the improvement. And the improvement is that so a person can ride up and down there if they want it. It's always been that way for a long time, until just recently.
Is this something that can be done in the normal city budget
Oh,
on their
sure.
regular time?
Sure.
Well, I think you as mayor and the city manager, you can work that out. I don't think.
Well, we have to,
But
this
if
is
you're
not
spending
a.
money outside, extra
We-
money,
Added to our
I'm not
inventory.
for that at all. So,
This is
I've
not,
said my piece.
Yeah.
the reason we need council action is it's not in our road inventory. If we do this, council has to approve it as a road, and then we can,
And people are gonna want to.
and we're gonna add it to our DOT list.
Yeah.
I suggest,
So if it is gonna be required, declared a road, is there, you know, and added to our DOT list, is there any type of engineering or anything will have to be done on that road for putting the road in and putting drainage ditches down the side? And it seems like according to the city's own erosion control plan, in other words, I think where Neil might be going, it's what's the cost to do this? Is it
And
5,
maintain
10? I mean, I can see $15,000 of work here easy. I don't think it's worth spending that money on it, especially when it's not a road already. It makes a great little hiking trail up and down.
Well, it isn't
Yeah,
a
just
good
keep checking.
walking trail.
Let Traverse.
It's not a walking trail right now, you ask Al. That stone isn't very good to walk up and down on. Is it, Al?
Neither is one.
no, but what I'm going to suggest is that we have spent a lot of time talking about the equipment that is used to keep Sky Valley looking good. And the money that we're going to be looking at when we don't have a lot of extra surplus money. So I think that this should go to the codification item and forget about it right now because it's prioritized. We need to triage things. This is not something that needs to be, it's not arterial bleeding that needs to be dealt with. Just the same as the codification of our ordinances. It's not something that needs to be done. It's nice, but it doesn't need to be done. We have other things that are more of a priority. We need certain equipment, and the equipment isn't cheap. So, and you know, there's nothing that I've seen where our financial situation is rosy. You know, we're okay, But to open up a short one block and spend $10, $15, $18,000, I just don't see it. I just can't go for it.
How long have we been without the use of this road? I mean, I understand from some point back in the 70s it was a road, but, yeah, pardon?
And are there water pipes under it?
Water pipes under every road in Sky Valley.
Really? I can tell you how to floss, I don't know much about roads, so. That's all right, that's right.
Okay, everybody had to say, we can move on. The creation of the Downtown Development Authority.
Who's the sponsor for this? Here, top reasons why we need to do it now.
I think at last month's meeting, y'all told me just to put some stuff together. It wasn't imminent, but y'all wanted to just get some information. So what I did was I drafted what the resolution for activating the DDA would look like, just so y'all have it for your records and you can look at it. That resolution would, if it was approved, would activate the DDA. You'd have to name the members and their terms. And then also, you would also need to do a boundary description of where the DDA would be located. And then the second one would be the bylaws of the DDA, what those would look like. You could tinker around with some of those things, but that's just kind of standard bylaws on that. And then I don't see it in here, but I did send it over, a couple of pieces from some attorneys in Atlanta talking about DDAs and all their powers and duties and things like that, which I printed it out, I've got it here, I don't know if you.
I sent it.
Did you send that?
We just didn't
Okay.
put it as part of it.
Okay, and so y'all can look that over if y'all have any questions.
Would a DDA be similar to the planning and zoning committee type of thing?
Not really.
Okay.
It would basically just be an entity that stands on its own, it's still related to the city, but they would entice businesses to come in. They could have the ability to take out loans and things like that to do public-private partnerships with things. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you can do with it. A lot of smaller towns DDAs almost act kind of like a chamber of commerce sort of thing, so they don't take out loans or finance, but they have boost the city council had asked me to put together some stuff, and that's what I did, so y'all can look at it. It's not imminent, I don't think y'all were wanting to vote on anything this month, or anything like that, it was just something to look at.
Thank you, I think I heard everything. Chip, you're louder than me.
Okay, animal control.
So going back, are we not doing anything right now?
We're doing right now. Animal control, Linda?
The attorney looked over our ordinances and provided us with a draft ordinance for amending our firearm and wild animal ordinances so as to allow hunting with registration with the police department and for wild boar, or the hogs and coyote and the geese. It would all have to fall under federal, state guidelines and everything, but as long as you were within those guidelines, then right now, Sky Valley doesn't allow legally to trap, kill, or anything else. Well, we've got a big hog problem. Sometimes we get a lot of complaints with the geese coming off the course, so we've had to deal with them before too. But and coyote is something that we kind of threw in there at the end, based on what the police department has told me that, you know, we've seen an increase in coyote, so it's not necessarily an issue right now, but it could be in the future, so why not put it in there?
Yeah,
I think that's a good idea.
I agree.
I don't know how many of y'all.
What guidelines, you said it had to fall under federal, state, whatever, but I don't, if I missed something, I don't see them specifically referenced in here.
No, I mean, you would, I mean, each animal has a specified, it could be the time of year you can hunt for them, that kind of thing. Usually it's the season or whether or not they're protected, that kind of thing. But all that would be through them.
All that would
They
be-
set those guidelines and they may change, so as long as,
Right. In section 3, it just says subject to state and federal regulations. That's left vague just because those regulations change from time to time.
And we're covered by a whole lot of national forest, and right here it says hogs may be taken with archery equipment during archery deer season, with deer weapons during firearms deer season, and so forth with turkey, and yada, yada, yada.
I don't know.
That's on
Yeah.
national forest.
so before they could get a permit from us, our police would know what else the guidelines are.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how many of you went on my website and looked at the video and the photographs of the destruction.
I couldn't browse on my
I got you.
I did.
They literally ate up, well, down from your driveway, all the way down, way past me now. And I talked to David Edwards. David said he'd actually seen signs of them all the way down to Alpine. So we have two issues. One, they're tearing up the property. Two, we've got a lot of citizens here, taxpayers that have animals, dogs or whatever, and they're afraid to go out at night and walk them. And I can't say as I blame them. The dog's gonna upset the pig.
Have y'all seen the size of those pigs? I just saw a picture.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh. They're huge.
Well, yeah, there was actually a picture of one in my yard who, after I just put down my nice new pine straw, he reorganized the whole thing.
I think,
How rude.
I think they're more dangerous than the bears,
Well, they are.
for sure.
So anyway, David Edwards and I talked about this a minute, and we come to find out that the feral hog can be shot on federal lands with most hunting seasons, such as if it's turkey season, the hog's in. If it's deer season, you can shoot the hog. Right now, there's no season, so you can't shoot the hogs on federal land. However, you can even bait hogs on private land and shoot them anytime you want to. So it came down to the issue that, all right, well, we can't shoot the hog in Sky Valley because you can't discharge the firearm. And so when we were trying to work on this, okay, what do? You actually have to, if you see the hog, if I got to step over into federal land, shooting back into here and so forth. So, in other words, there was really no way to take care of the hog. Sky Valley had its limitations, and the federal land said, no, we're not going to budge on anything over there. So, this takes care of it. And I know they've been trying, they have trapped them a couple of times, but 1 and 2 at a time isn't getting us anywhere. I mean, this thing, David's been tracking it for what, 3 or 4 years now, and I haven't seen it this bad.
no, it's definitely progressively getting worse.
Yeah.
I guess my other question was, it says subject to state and federal right. Who's the one that says we're within, if we hire hunters or who's the stuckee for knowing all this regulation and making sure we're not in violation of it?
The person-
Who's our authority in the city, and is it stated in here?
The person who gets the permit to do the shooting, the burden would be on them that they would comply with all state and federal regulations.
They have to determine that themselves?
Well, actually, the police chief has
Our
to see that they
chief,
comply.
Right.
Basically,
Before
if you
issuing
have a hunting
the permit.
license, you gotta have a state hunting license anyway.
Yeah.
So that would be an example of the federal regulation you've gotta go by. So in other words, if I wanted to shoot a feral hog in my yard, I could get the permit from the city, but that doesn't mean that I'm not required to have a federal hunting license or, does that make sense?
So it's just like hunting anything. I mean, the
Mhm.
person that has the permit has the responsibility to do what's required. of them.
Okay, I just want to make sure our liability is covered.
And you acknowledge that when you get your
Okay.
permit.
I'm not a hunter.
Yeah.
I know there's
No, I don't even fish it anymore.
Is there going to be an uproar perhaps with some people who are animal lovers? I'm not an animal lover, but who wants
It's
to?
a pretty strong
I'll buy
case,
it.
pretty strong case for these, because they're feral, they're not native.
You really don't want to be a
Oh.
feral.
That's not a-
Okay,
You're
cool.
actually 4 dog owner, I do believe, and I
Three
know,
now.
oh, 3, so, okay. Now, do you really want to go outside at 10 o'clock at night after looking at the damage along your road?
Well, I get really upset with Scooter when he's out there and I've heard the coyotes.
Right. He look,
He's little and I called him by 3 names.
he won't win that game.
No.
Okay.
Do we have any more questions on the
No.
change in the ordinance?
No, I think,
So we ready to put this on the agenda for next
Please.
meeting?
Yeah.
yes.
Thank
Michael?
We have, Mr. Mayor,
Yes?
can we take a comment from the
Yes, sir.
It's a person, it's a person.
I do not like to buy pigs because of the damage that they're doing. And a great place to see it is if you go to the pump station on Knott Drive, just walk up that hill where it's cut and keep on going to where it's not cut. And you'll see where, with their tusks, they dig up the ground and get the grubs and so on and so forth. I think it's a tough problem. I don't think the coyotes are a problem. But let me say that a lot of us, well, not a lot of us, I hike in that area on both sides of Knott Drive. There has been a bow hunting tent or some kind of tent set up as a blind over the parcel that I'm talking about, illustrating the damage that they do. And if we are going to authorize people to use basically deer rifles in Sky Valley, projectiles that go and go and go, I think we ought to limit it in terms of hours, I think the pigs are most likely to be seen first light and at dusk. At dusk, people are awake. I wouldn't be in favor of people hunting late afternoon. And, people are up in the summertime. I wouldn't do it on summertime weekends. If we did it from 30 minutes before sunup to an hour after sunrise, weekdays only, certain periods of the year, that would be fine. But to have, and we have to publicize it so people know when this is going to be going on.
Or put a sign up at the
So-
trails.
Yeah,
Yeah, no hiking.
but, that doesn't keep people from wandering up any which way, which
I think that
some
is
people do.
taken care of. In section 5, the Sky Valley police chief has to approve the hunting permit. And the ordinance says the purpose of the chief's approval is to determine whether the requested hunting location is safe for the public. So I think we can amend that, say the location and time or something.
I think if we're gonna do something ordinance-wise, we ought to control the hours in the ordinance.
I don't know.
We'll have
I don't think the pigs are
government laws and not of men.
The pigs themselves travel more at nighttime than in day, like they're early morning or things that, they're out, you'll see them. And I don't think that you have to really worry because some of these people that we know of, Billingsworth up in Scott, up in Scaly, has dogs, and he lets the dogs chase him.
Yeah.
So then he can come up and either.
My dog was chasing one on the trail up to
So
Red Ball.
I appreciate your
midday.
concern,
Yeah.
but I think that we are also thought of all lots and for sure to not have you all have them hunting in the middle of the day or when there's a fourth big parade or anything,
Well,
so,
my other concern is that people's homes are there in place,
yeah. But
24 hours, 7 days a week.
most of these hunters are,
We're not.
I've hunted and a lot of, and you don't aim towards a farmhouse just because you see a deer in there, you just wait. And these guys are not going to, just because your house is there and the pig's in front of them, they're going to put a shotgun blast through your front door. So I think they're they're very concerned with all of us.
It's a tough problem, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And we don't want to live with the problem, but I'm not sure we want to live with the solution either of discharging high-velocity firearms in the city.
I think that'd be up
That's
to
all.
where they're going and so forth, and with the police chief, if he's gonna be here in the middle of a residential, then maybe.
And I mean, yeah, and I was gonna say, right now, fortunately, the problem, unless you know different than I am, is basically from your road, Alpine, back toward the National Forest. So we're not talking about, say, downtown,
Yeah.
you know, down here. We hope not, because God, we, you know, if you've seen what they do to golf courses, something, this golf course would be just completely out of business. And, you know, and that's a concern, especially over at 14, where, what is that, 4 or 5 way intersection right there? That's about the closest, the golf course is to the National Forest.
Yeah.
So my hope is that we can take care of them before they move inside an area that, like you're saying, would be more dangerous. I mean, you'd be, say, shooting over here behind the chapel. We don't want to get that far. We get that far, we're in real trouble.
You know, we control the drugs in the golf course, and we're not gonna have the pigs there.
Yeah.
He's running.
That's my concern is who would do the shooting and shooting, like I have your concern. I shoot handguns, I don't shoot shotguns or rifles, but I know the capacity for that bullet to travel pretty far. And the people, I'm glad you're giving some serious thought to who's gonna be shooting. And please, we need to set a specific criteria that they have a certain distance from houses. That's my concern.
If I understand the ordinance as it's written now, we put that responsibility on our chief of police. He's to screen and control and oversee the whole operation. That's,
And
need to, is it not?
Yeah, and to her
Am
point,
I missing the point?
no,
No.
That's it, isn't it? Okay.
but to her point, if you limit it to a certain distance from houses, let's just take now, I've got my house and my land, I've got a pig on my piece of property, and I can't shoot within 500 yards of a house, well, how am I gonna take care of the pig on my own piece of property?
Right, but those bullets can really travel.
There's a section 7 here in this proposed ordinance that the hunters have to get a property owner's permission. So if you're afraid of somebody on your property shooting a weapon of any kind, then you don't have to give them permission. Now, your neighbor could give them permission. It could adversely affect you. And that's been proven time and time again at New Year's Eve celebrations and July 4th celebrations in the cities where they start firing guns and a mile away somebody gets shot and they don't even know who it was. That's a concern that I have with this proposal. Taking Jim's point, it's a good news, bad news type thing. Good news is we've got something that we can implement to correct the bad news is these pigs coming out and possibly destroying the beauty of Sky Valley and the safety of Sky Valley. So as I'm reading this and understanding it, a lot falls on the police chief to make sure that everything is done, and he needs to be proactive and to work closely with the city manager to make sure that everything is addressed consistent with the proposed ordinance. And if he doesn't do that, then we ought to just dump this proposed ordinance and let the hogs do what they gotta do. So, but anyway, it's in there, and the concern is that, a shoulder weapon will travel a long ways. And again, the good news might be that there's so many trees here that it won't go a long way. That you might be able, you may be lucky if it goes 100 feet before it hits a tree. So, but there's gotta be hands-on monitoring of whomever is designated to hunt pigs in Sky Valley. And they can't do it on personal, private property without the owner's permission. They can't, we just can't say there's an ordinance and we can have hunters come in here and go on your property to shoot a pig. Or
I'm not a hunter, so the only guns I've ever shot belonged in an airplane, but, the F-45 that I couldn't hit anything with anyway, but, guys that are hunters up here, I think probably have to follow the state laws and the city laws and everybody else's laws. I don't know that we need to have a law with great specificity when there's already plenty of laws there. And even if we had one with great specificity, how we would control it. Now, we already have the ordinances, federal and land and all that, and hunters, I think, mostly have fairly decent common sense. That's why they still hunt. I mean, that's why they can still hunt. If they gone up and shot people in houses very often, they wouldn't be hunting anymore, I would imagine. So I would think writing a law with great specificity as it pertains to how we manage it in Sky Valley would not be productive, simply because we don't have anybody to manage it. And to say the chief.
I'm satisfied with it, if you're talking to me, I'm the one who brought up specifications. As long as the chief is the
Yeah,
control,
the chief
and
is
controls
police.
it, and he's the authority.
He's got an
everybody
authority, and he
understands
says,
it, I'm
yeah,
fine.
that's what I was about to say. He's got a
Well,
He's got a job to
The reason
follow.
for this ordinance is because the ordinance, as far as firearms in Sky Valley, is there's no shooting.
Right.
End of
Yeah.
story. So in other words, you go out and capture these pigs and chase them down and
Well, you know, but
haul them out someplace and drown
the
them.
chief of police came out and, or I don't know whether it was the chief or Dave,
Yeah.
one of them came out and shot a coyote on the golf course while I was playing a while back because it was out there dying. And they weren't sure whether he was rabid or not, but he was on the golf course on number 5 hole. And he came out there and shot him right on the spot, and then they hauled him off. So, you know, we have these things that come up from time to time, but I'm not really in favor of writing laws that we can't really do anything with anyway. But,
Well, it does state in here, section 6, once approved for a permit, hunter shall notify Sky Valley Police Department of an intended hunt as well.
Sure.
So in other words, there is notification.
yeah.
But I'd like to recommend one change in here, and that'd be section 10. It says the city shall pay a bounty of $10 per feral hog. I'd like that to be changed to the going rate. I mean, you know, there may be times where we have no need to pay for anything for them, and there may be other times where it gets bad enough where, hey, you know, we need to up that ante, so why do we want to limit ourselves on that number when we can just say have a posted rate, you know? That makes sense? It's easier to adjust because we have to, in order to do anything different, we have to rewrite the whole ordinance.
What are you talking about paying them?
They're going right.
Whatever we decide at any point in time, right? See, the ordinance says $10,
Oh, so.
which would mean forever.
Gotcha.
So we may have a $10 problem today, we may have a $100 problem tomorrow, and then we have to redo the whole
You could
ordinance.
put the posted rate.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying, the posted rate.
Oh, okay.
In other words,
The posted rate is the posted city.
yeah, whatever the bounty is.
All right, let's move on to item number 9.
I haven't seen.
Any quotes on the pavilion electric?
No, we have none.
None. Okay,
I've got a question. When a bid goes out, how does it specify, do they have to do the work within a certain date or something? Or what latitude do they have?
I mean, it depends on how the bid's written, whether or not it has to be done within a certain amount of time after it's awarded, or sometimes like on the bucket trucks, they gave us a date as to when
No, I'm
they
talking
could.
about specifically this bid that you didn't get any response to. How was it, how if I was
How was it?
responding and my workload is like this and I can't, you know, I've got a backlog and all. Can I tell you that I won't be able to do it before such and such a date? And at that time, the cost will be so much? Or do I have to tell you,
This one actually didn't even ask for a date, just asked for the quote.
well,
Did we call in the electricians and ask them to quote?
That's what we did.
wow.
Put it in the newspaper too.
That's
Well, the
very-
newspaper, I understand, but I don't know how many electricians are reading the newspaper looking for that, but
Well, it gets
That's why
picked
I'm
up
curious.
on, you know, the construction boards too. 'Cause it's just a small job, that's why we have no bids. And everybody seems to be busy right now, so, but we contacted Hunter Electric, we contacted Clarence Redden, who did the pavilion. James talked to Joel Winchester and, Hank Gay. So, yeah.
It's funny, I got some work done. Whenever I called, I could get it done in 2 weeks.
Sometimes it's different
If
when
I want
they have to bid, they don't wanna do the whole bid process. If you were just gonna hire them, you can get them
We
hired.
can move along, I was just trying to
Let's
figure
move
out.
on to item 10,
Yeah,
that you bid on the bucket truck. You, new and used.
New and used, we got 6 bids on new bucket trucks. We got 1 bid for a used bucket truck and 103,000 miles on it. Our current bucket truck will take about 12, at least 12,000. That's the estimate that we have to get it repaired. It's a 94. That's not that much money compared to the other money, but if you have reviewed the bucket truck, it's not in very good shape either. So, anyway, that's where we're at. Low bid is OG Hughes and Sons at $86,760. The used truck was $57,155.
How much?
$57,155 for the used.
And how old is that?
It's a 2010, 103,771 miles.
Where are they going? Out west?
No, these are the close ones.
That's a lot of miles.
Yeah. And what I was told about the used is most of the dealers said that the good used bucket trucks had all gone to Puerto Rico after the big storm. So it's really hard to find a used one right now.
Oh,
Of course, they're all diesel engines.
No, there's a variety. Some bid, they could bid diesel or V10, so there's kind of a variety. Wade Ford is a state contract, and their bid for the V10 was $92,014 and an upcharge of $4,100 if you want the diesel.
What about the one that was used?
The used one, actually, I couldn't tell on that one. It didn't say.
100,000 miles on a diesel engine isn't gonna wear it out.
And it was a 2-wheel drive versus most of the others, all the ones. 4-wheel drive.
What do we use the bucket truck for?
We use it for our tree trimming, we use it for putting up lights, we use it for flagpoles, changing out lights.
Yeah, so how often would you say?
So we use it year round.
No, I know, but how often do you
How
use it? Like, in grand scheme of things, do you use it like a month out of the year, straight time?
rather than a
We
bid.
don't use it every day, any time of the
Right.
year, but.
No, but I'm saying you collectively, you take the year and you use it so much and it totals up to 2 weeks, a month. What I'm saying is if it's used to put up Christmas decorations and for trimming trees or for flagpoles, can we get to a point where,
Hey,
can we get to a point where it might be better to rent a truck for a particular purpose as opposed to having a truck that sits there that's gonna cost us $100,000? Even with tree trimming, you can hire a company to come in and give us a quote on what it's gonna take 2 weeks of a year to use your equipment to trim trees in this particular area, and then next year we'll do the same thing.
And we have a bid out for that right now,
Right.
too, so we may
We
want
talked
to
about
wait
that, right,
until
yeah.
we see what kind of rates those come back
Yeah,
as,
right.
but.
Agreement with that.
The problem with renting one is we do need it periodically during the whole year, so that's the downfall to not owning one. We used to trim trees out of the front bucket of the backhoe, and that's probably not the safest route to go. So if we're gonna do our own tree trimming, we're gonna need a bucket truck, but
But your bid that you, or your inquiries for the tree people to come in for a couple of weeks, and
Yeah, that one's still out to bid right now.
that's still out, that comes in next week or week after.
Let me see what date.
29th, I think, June 29th.
Oh, no, let's see. Intent to respond forms were supposed to be in by the 15th, which I've got one, but the 29th, yeah, is on the proposal. So far I know of one person that's looking at it.
Anybody have any other questions as far as the bucket truck is concerned?
Do we have a consensus that we just see what we get as far as a bid for doing the work? Is that what it is?
I would suggest that.
Before we address this further?
But we don't need a bucket truck today,
No.
so we can wait, what's today? We can wait 10 days and see what kind of a response we get.
We can,
Would be July, end of July.
Yeah.
before y'all take it up.
put it, July. All right, move on to item 11, engineering for the flood area.
So I didn't know exactly what scope of work was needed, so I asked the engineer's opinion on what they thought we needed to do as a first step, basically, to see what would need to be designed. What would they need to do in order to figure out what the fix was, to get us to a design phase, but not include a design. So we've got two different proposals, slightly different scope of work. One wanted to do the hydraulic modeling, and the other one doesn't include modeling, just the surveying and that kind of thing. So, obviously the one that includes modeling is more.
We ought to still have the study that was done on the new outlet that was built here, the outlet to the lake dam structure over here, which was done in '07. We should still have the study that was done on that to calculate the size of that.
That wasn't our study.
Well, no, but that's a good idea. I mean, we get our hands on that.
Yeah,
I mean,
that
that
would've been
sounds
narrow.
smart. I mean, we're going, my opinion, all we're gonna need is some box culvert under here, and if you make it, y'all know what box culvert is, but that's box culvert,
Yeah.
and as wide as the creek.
Let me see. Okay, just like,
Instead of,
like it says, just-
just a great big box culvert that goes under the road, and the whole creek goes through it, and that's exactly what's coming out from under the dam.
Or two of them.
Well, you can make them their own,
Yeah, that's what I meant.
whatever width you want,
Whatever you want.
so, but yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of this is wasted money.
Well, it's, in their opinion of what they told me is, anybody can stick a bigger culvert in there and say, and it may or may not fix your problem. But the elevation change between the creek here and the creek on the other side, and even the lake level, without doing some surveying, their concern was there's not enough fall. So it doesn't matter how big your culvert is, if there's not enough fall.
If the flow rate isn't there.
Right. So the problem may not even be at our culvert level, it may be at the lake level.
Well,
Yeah.
I think keeping this side of the culverts clean helps. I've put out several pictures and provided it to y'all where you've got a backup on this side of the road and coming out of the culvert on the opposite side of the road, they were only half full at best. So in other words, we're getting 50% usage, and something's got to be blocking it from this side. I'm not gonna say it's gonna cure it, but I'm saying, obviously, if we're only getting 50% usage of what we've got now.
From what I've been told, it is flooded there forever.
And then,
So I can't imagine it's always been,
maybe it's from the Duckies. that are stuck in there.
Maybe.
But you know, you get lucky, water just on that cement pad that's going across right there.
That bridge right here blocks
Yeah.
water.
Yeah.
That blocks a lot of water. And, so that in itself, when it gets up, that's what starts it coming this way, because that's blocking it before it gets down there. And when you have a lot of water coming, it's all right up in here, and you look at those culverts down there, and there's still got 6, 8 inches to the top of the culvert.
But it doesn't
Going
even get
under.
to the bottom of this bridge until it blocks out down here. So in other words,
No, I
if
disagree. I disagree with that statement. I think
Well,
because blocks, when you get a run of water going, coming down here, that's what's holding it right over there.
I came,
And that'll block
that's
out
what I
first.
that bridge was really, needs to be raised.
That's not our problem.
No, but
It's causing a problem.
it needs to be identified and to somebody whose problem it is. Because
So that engineering study, you get, what is their solutions, did they say?
they don't
The
have a-
solution is to do the survey and the preliminary culvert analysis, and that was $6,085 for the cheapest.
Could
The
I,
other included some flood hydraulic modeling, which I think is probably overkill in my
could I add an observation? I've been here for a long time with floods, but, you know, if we try and engineer something to correct for a 15-year event, it's gonna cost $1 gazillion, because this place has been flooding, including all the way up to this lodge floor for
It's
years.
just been built.
Yeah, and, you know, we're at the bottom of the valley, and, you know, the water has no place else to go, and we get it. And bigger culverts, when Harrison Merrill did the thing down here, we had one pipe going through years ago, now we have 2 big pipes going through. And as somebody mentioned, if it gets clogged up down there, there's no place to go but over the edges of the path, and it's incumbent upon us to make sure that stays clean. But we get a lot of sticks and debris coming off the hill every time we have one of these things. When you have a 15-year or 20-year event, I mean, that's a 300-year dam, supposedly, when it was designed for the 300-year flood. And
oh, the new one you.
yeah, that was part of their design criteria, to have an overflow for a 300-year flood. And, you know, we can't engineer at the bottom of the valley for the 15 or 20-year event. I mean, it's just not doable. I don't care how many design things they come up unless they elevate the mountains so that we're down at the bottom and it flows faster when it gets down here and goes away, because it's not gonna happen.
Well, basically, when it does flood in a half an hour, it's all
Yeah.
go. So as long as they can come through the archway and go up around, and they can get out. If they can't, then they just go another route.
Yeah.
And so,
I wouldn't.
I think this engineering study, we have it. People will ask about it, and we say we have the study on it. And
Well, I think Harrison Merrill probably has one too, and it's obviously of interest to him, I would think, so, since he did all this, but I don't know.
Well, you know, it's not an issue to the club under the last administration, but it is under this one, so. But I agree, it is temporary when it floods.
But to get along with what you say, that when we can have, when the water gets down, so they can get down in there, we'll have them look about, see how we can get something through that we can, maybe put a bucket on one end of the line and the other and pull something to clear it out. If there's a lot of mud and stuff that's sitting in there, we work on it. That will be on one of the projects for the city to look at later.
Do you have someone in mind to do the survey and the culvert analysis?
You've got 2 bids.
Those are the 2 bids, okay.
Well, there you go. This was in the last flood, you can see that was completely backed up on this side of the road. while that was backed up on this side of the road, that was the output on the other side. So we're not getting utilization of those pipes, and Bob, that's not,
Yeah,
No, I think
that's
that needs to be.
yeah.
backup.
Yeah, but see, the backup is not in these, the
Backup's
backup is here.
That's what I'm saying.
Here and then back up.
Well, if you're flowing here, you're not
Right.
gonna back up further, but the point being is, as you can see, that with that water, that it's just, what, half the pipe maybe?
Well, then we'll check that out when this is all gets down
Okay.
and in there.
You got a question?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Just to put the flooding problem in perspective, I know it's flooded twice in the 7.5 years that I've been here. And it doesn't really last very long. And I think we are inconvenienced more by a snowfall that takes 2 or 3 days to clear than we are by the flooding that happens. So I don't think this is a big deal. I do think, though, that, you know, the city's job is to do stuff that looks out for the city, and that if we need to do a study to get some facts and figure out, you know, is the room we're in right now ever likely to flood? Because flooding situations tend not to get better. If there is future development in Sky Valley, then there's going to be more rain running off, and there's going to be more flooding. So I wouldn't object to spending the money on the study, so that if we learn something that we don't know now about the nature of the problem. But, you know, I don't think this is something that we're gonna be interested in spending a whole lot of money on. I'd rather get a new better snow plow or something, but that's just me.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, let's get on to item 12. You get any bids on that? Shirley?
Is that the
That's offensive.
fence? You got one bid. And we got 3 quotes for the materials. We bid out the labor, and that's us doing the demolition and disposal of the existing. And them providing the labor, one labor quote we got was $5,900 from Franklin Fence. And then we've got 3 quotes for materials. Reeves at $3,055.88, Supply Mart $3,136.16, and Home Depot was the lowest at $2,995.30.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I think we all need a little bell or something. Were the people that quoted the materials, were they given the drawing? They were?
Oh, the
Huh?
materials? No, I gave them a list of materials.
Well, the list of materials is not complete. I should have made you a list of materials.
Well, the bid also says anything that wasn't included in the materials, they would be responsible for. So like the concrete and that kind of thing, they would be
No,
responsible.
I'm talking about, the pressure treated posts are correct, the pressure treated rails are correct, but there's only half of the galvanized bolts were requested. There's 4 per rail, and that comes up to 216. And the washers weren't requested at all, so we're missing
Okay.
that, which can easily be adjusted, but I just wanted to point that out. There's 27 rail sections, okay, and there's
It's in-
eight bolts per section. That's 216 bolts.
I don't have the answer to this question, but has anybody looked into the possibility of even being able to put a post in the ground there? I mean, that's an awful rocky area.
Well, I'm sure if
The fencing company said they could do
they
it.
could do it, they must have checked it.
Unforeseen conditions,
Yeah.
unforeseen conditions, if they start to install something, run into something unforeseen, and receive a change order.
What was the,
understand that, too.
What was the response from Harrison Merrill to changing the look of the overlook?
I sent him the plans and he's, okay.
Okay, all right, good.
Yeah, I know we talked about that actually, when we met with him, and if I remember correctly, yeah, he was pretty, you know, I don't care what you
It's
do, as
flexible.
long as he doesn't do it.
Again, you're spending money on someone else's property, however, you've got to do something up there, I mean, it's on down.
The contract says that we have to keep it up the way it was when we took it over. So we don't have much of an option on spending money on somebody else's property unless we want to call the contract.
Well, it is a leased piece of property by the city, so it's not like spending money on somebody else's property we have no responsibility for.
No,
At
it's a-
least incur the responsibility.
It's a leased piece
Lease,
of
we have to
property, Chip, but
maintain.
it's a
That's what I'm
30-day
saying.
cancellation.
Does the fencing company, do they, what do we know about them? I guess we could ask them a few things, like do they have a power drill that they can drill?
You know, I don't think we should get into that phase, but they're,
We have some
they have
concern.
this all the time, and they do fencing all over, and I'm sure that they went up and looked the situation over before they even, put a bid in to figure what they could do it for. So they know the ground area.
I sure hate to see that current fence taken down. These guys hired to do the job. They put in a third of the post and run into rock and come back and say, okay, we've gone as far as we're gonna go until we do something different, so the cost of drilling through rock is gonna be expensive. Then what we gonna do?
Well, we can always look and see what their contract says that they're going to give us.
Well, we can write the contract.
We can write it.
Our attorney can write the contract.
Who can write the contract?
Right here. You write the
Well, I think-
contract so that
I guess if you
it can be written so that.
did one pile of
That's it.
gold somewhere,
Well,
that may not be answer for the whole
That's
thing
my
either.
point, is, you know,
No, if the contract is written correctly, then it's all covered, no matter what they run into.
I'm not sure they want to continue to honor their bid, because,
Yeah.
I mean, they're gonna take in the unforeseen, but hey, go, it's a shot in the dark.
We can get a different quote, I bet.
Well, I mean, if you're gonna have a contract with them, both sides need to know exactly what they're getting into, so
Yeah.
they would need to know that there's a possibility of rock there.
Yeah.
We would put the burden on them to come and inspect the property to make sure whether they can do the job or not as bid.
And they have been up here, they didn't do it sight unseen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you can have a contract that puts all the burden on them
That
for.
contract, and
Inspecting
in
it.
good faith in both parties.
And this is gonna be in wood. Wood?
Yeah.
I mean, in other words, no more concrete, I mean, or rock pillars.
No,
That's good and bad, I mean, so many people sit there and watch the sunsets and, you know, so, I mean,
Yes,
you're losing some, but
Well,
liability wise.
are the pillars in bad condition because of age or because people run into them? I know there's been a couple of them knocked over out there with vehicles.
Well,
well, if you
We're
go
not-
down there and look, you'll see that it's, the rock are falling off the sides, some are laying over because they never put a base.
Yeah.
They
Well, I'm
just-
asking, just.
Yeah,
The railroad ties weren't put like in the concrete, they were just held up by the rock, basically, so that's why. all
I
the
got you.
rails-
Yeah, it's-
How long
But
has
it's
that
been
been?
there for
It's been there
30 years.
Forever, yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's done pretty well.
If you look at the ones going to Highlands, the same people must have built them with
They're all in the same condition.
other business, Neil, will you please? Thank you.
It's a work session, Bob.
I know.
We're trying to, we don't get to talk any other time between all of us.
What? All
You're not
right,
talking to me.
other business, we're gonna have to go into executive session,
You don't have to add it
and we're going to add it after the adjournment,
to the, no.
before the adjournment.
Is this something we need to do in executive session?
Yes, based
Is
on
that
that.
the advice of our attorney? I mean,
Yeah.
From what I've been told, yeah, I think it would be eligible for executive session.
Okay.
What was the result of the fencing?
It's on.
On the agenda.
All right, motion to move to executive session.
Yeah, motion to add it to the.
Motion to add the executive session to the agenda.
To discuss what?
Litigation.
To
Yeah,
discuss
but-
litigation.
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 So that's for next.
No.
I second. You're welcome.
Oh, okay, I got it.
Okay, we've been moved and seconded to add this to the executive session.
Read it back.
All in favor?
All in favor?
All right, make a motion to move back into regular session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And we're back in the regular session and nothing, no action was taken on the executive session. I'd like to have a motion to adjourn.
Yay, I make a motion.
All in favor?
Y'all don't leave, I need y'all to sign this for me, please.
Will do, will do. Go 200 miles round.